I caught my fiancé cheating on me the day before our wedding. They were shocked when I did. My name is Rick. I'm 27 years old, and I'm a man. My ex-girlfriend, Maya, 25, and I were deeply in love. I was head over heels for her. I never thought she would betray my trust and cheat on me like she eventually did. When Maya and I first met, she had just graduated from college, and I was already working at a fast-growing tech company. We were attracted to each other right from the start. I couldn't figure out what made her so special. We first met at a birthday party for my friend's sister, who and Maya had been friends in college. I think she must have noticed me looking at her during the party, because after thinking about it for a minute, she looked back at me. I finally worked up the courage to approach her. I wasn't as thin as I am now. I carried a little extra weight, which is a genetic trait in my family and something I've had since childhood. Over the years, I had been rejected and even laughed at by girls when I tried to approach them. So I didn't expect anything different with Maya. She was stunning, and I prepared myself for her to be cold or ignore me, but she surprised me. She was very polite, and we spent the whole night talking and having a great time. I finally felt comfortable and confident after a long time. That night was a turning point for me. We connected so well that we shared our phone numbers, and I called her as soon as I got home. This was the start of us spending more time together, going on lunch dates, and our friendship growing over time. Maya was special.
This is your story channel. If you haven't subscribed yet, please join us to stay updated with more real stories happening around you.
Maya was special. She was kind, smart, which I noticed right away when we first talked. I was attracted to her for more than just her looks. What attracted me to Maya was her intelligence and sense of humor. Not many girls had let me go on a lot of dates, but Maya did. I've always been fascinated by intelligence. I didn't like being around people who didn't have ambitions, direction, or plans for the future. Maya was the total package. She was just out of college, and she was already looking for a job. She was going on a lot of interviews, and she was very dedicated to her career. Seeing how dedicated she was to her career was inspiring. I hadn't had a serious relationship since high school, not because I couldn't sustain one, but because girls were looking for something more than the love of a nerdy guy, which I admittedly lacked at the time. So meeting and dating someone like Maya felt like a big achievement for me. It had been 3 months since her graduation, but Maya was having trouble finding a job. She had moved out of her college dorm and was living with her boyfriend, but it was hard for her to pay for everything. Her parents weren't earning enough money to support her after graduation. They had made it clear that she had to take care of herself. Unfortunately, her boyfriend's living situation wasn't ideal because she was often inattentive and often had her boyfriend over to her one-bedroom apartment. This was affecting Maya's mental health, so I suggested she take a break and move in with me. I was just starting out in the tech industry, but I was making a good salary. I was able to support both of us financially. We shared a spacious one-bedroom apartment, and I paid the rent, bills, and groceries all by myself. I didn't mind because I loved her and thought it was worth spending extra money on her. Right? Our relationship was generally good, and we rarely fought. Maya took care of the housework, shopping, and met my needs in bed. She was great in bed, and I cherished every moment we spent together. Before we became a couple, Maya shared her past experience with an abusive ex-boyfriend from college. I told her I was a gentleman and would keep my word. I've never been angry or violent, even with women. I promised her that she could feel safe with me. I had never been unfaithful in previous relationships, and I had no intention of cheating on her. My job allowed for a mix of remote and on-site work, so I balanced my time between our home and the office, which meant we could spend a lot of time together. To show her I was honest and committed, I suggested a rule that whenever we went out, we'd let each other know where we were, who we were with, and what we were doing. I did this to show her I was honest and that I had nothing to hide. As our relationship grew, we introduced each other to our families and got to know each other's friends, especially the close ones. I didn't have a best friend, but Maya did. Her name was Andrea. They were roommates in college and spent a lot of time together. Andrea visited our house often and felt like part of the family. Unlike Maya, Andrea worked as a manager at a popular retail store in our town and shared a house with her 2 sisters, who were also working professionals. According to Andrea, Maya had the chance to work at the same supermarket, but she turned it down to get a corporate job. It seemed that Maya had gotten used to me taking care of her, although I never mentioned it to her. Andrea teased Maya about this, calling her spoiled. Maya defended herself by saying that she had worked hard during her teenage years and throughout college with various part-time jobs, so she deserved to relax and be taken care of. I was more than happy to provide that support. I didn't hesitate to take care of her. I felt proud of myself for taking care of her. One evening, at a fancy restaurant where I was celebrating my new job, Maya surprised me. She asked, "What if we got married?" I was surprised, but I didn't completely reject the idea. I had thought about marrying her, but there were still many things to consider. I told her that we would get married when the time was right. Her face lit up with a smile. To be honest, I wanted Maya to establish her career before taking our relationship to the next level. I had always thought about marriage and starting a family. Since Maya came into my life, I had always pictured a future with her. I even had a ring ready to propose, but I was waiting for her career to stabilize first. But then she found the ring in my closet, and we ended up getting engaged earlier than we had planned. When Maya told her best friend Andrea, she was more surprised than happy. But it wasn't the typical reaction of a best friend getting married. It seemed to be the shock that she was marrying me. I thought Andrea would be more excited, especially since she was going to be the maid of honor. Still, her response was, "Are you serious?" Andrea casually dropped her purse on the floor, held Maya's ring, and looked at me as she forced a smile. I had spent a lot of time with them, so I could tell the difference between their real smiles and their fake ones. I didn't say anything to Maya, but I felt like Andrea wasn't really happy for her friend. I had noticed before that Andrea was always overly nice to me. One time, when the three of us were hanging out in our apartment while Maya was in the kitchen making snacks, I noticed something strange. Andrea subtly hinted to me that Maya might not be the person I thought she was. I understood her hint, but I pretended not to understand. I asked her to explain more, and she vaguely mentioned that I would find out eventually. She was drunk, so I couldn't tell if she was serious. We started planning the wedding, but Maya wanted a big event, and I didn't have the money for it or the right priorities. She wanted a big celebration, but I thought life would go on after the wedding. I wanted kids soon, which meant a bigger place and responsibilities. Despite Maya's reasons, I was against a big wedding. She mentioned the idea of a fancy wedding, but we knew that wasn't realistic. Surprisingly, Maya found a job a few months before the wedding. I couldn't afford the dress she wanted or the bridesmaids' dresses, so she got a job to cover her expenses. I was impressed with her choice, and I hoped she'd continue her career after the wedding. Even though she had a job, she didn't contribute to the wedding expenses. Her income went to her dress, shoes, accessories, and the needs of her bridesmaids. In the end, I had to pay for the venue, the hall, the cakes, and almost everything else myself. About 2 weeks before our wedding, Andrea started texting me more often. She asked about my sleep and shopping, and she had a lot of reasons to text me. However, when we met or she came to our house to help Maya, she acted normal to avoid suspicion. I had to tell Andrea to stop calling and texting me so much. I was reluctant to tell Maya because I was afraid it would hurt our relationship, and I was afraid it would affect their friendship or the wedding preparations. I suspected that Andrea was trying to seduce me or change my mind about marrying Maya because Maya trusted her. The night of Maya's bachelorette party, I got a call from Andrea while I was drinking with friends in the hotel bar. She said she wanted to show me something. At first, I didn't want to go because I thought she was trying to seduce me one last time. But when she mentioned Maya, a name I recognized, I decided to go with one of my friends and go upstairs. I arrived at the hotel room where they were having a small party. I saw Andrea waiting for me outside the door. She said something incredible. When I opened the door, I was disappointed. Just before I opened the door, I heard soft sounds coming from Maya's room, and my chest tightened as I touched the door handle. I was shocked to see Maya sitting on another man's lap. I thought this man was the male dancer they had hired to entertain them. When she saw me, she quickly got off him and tried to cover herself with the sheets. I immediately recognized him. Andrea had told me that he was her ex-boyfriend from college. I started to cry. It was too much. I left without saying anything. My friend, who was with me upstairs, was also shocked. He tried to talk to me or calm me down, but I pushed him away and left. As I walked down the hall, I heard Maya yelling at Andrea, "Why would you do this to me? My life was going perfectly, but you ruined it." Andrea shot back, "I told you he deserved better. Rick was nothing but good to you. I told you to break up with your boyfriend and be with Rick. But you wanted to have it both ways." I didn't bother to turn around. It was hard to believe that Maya had been cheating on me the whole time. It hurt too much to accept, and I wished I could handle the pain, but I couldn't. Andre tried to come after me, but I slammed the door in his face. I drank a lot, and I couldn't tell the difference between a shadow and a real person. The next morning, I woke up to a bunch of missed calls from Maya and others. Maya was already in her wedding dress when I left. She looked so unhappy when she saw me. She hurried over and asked me why I wasn't getting ready for our wedding. This made me very angry. I pushed her away and said I was canceling the wedding. Everyone was surprised and kept asking me why I had changed my mind. Even my parents were shocked. No one saw it coming, especially since I had already spent so much money on the preparations. But I was too upset to explain. I glared at Maya and felt angry. I went back to my room and locked myself in. I could hear my parents and some friends asking Maya why I had made this choice, but she didn't answer. She pretended to pass out, and some people caught her before she hit the floor. After cleaning up from the night before, I left the hotel room with a few things I had brought with me. I turned off my phone after leaving an apology message on my friend's WhatsApp group chat, and then I turned it off. Please don't blame me. I didn't know how else to react. It's been a week, and I'm still struggling to accept that I was cheated on. Update. Hello everyone. Thank you for your comments. I appreciate them. Some of you asked why I didn't check my boyfriend's sister's background before we dated Maya. I made a mistake. I didn't feel the need to investigate her background thoroughly, although I did ask my friend's sister about Maya during the early days of our relationship. She told me that they lived in different areas and that Maya was a friend of her friend's. They lost touch after college, so she didn't reveal much. I saw Maya yesterday, and she was mad at me for not showing up at our wedding. It's ironic, right? She brushed off what she did and painted me as the bad guy. She told her parents that I canceled the wedding because I drank too much the night before and wasn't in my right mind. I think she thought my silence meant I was stupid. I didn't want to see her again, and I didn't understand why she thought we could get back together. To make matters worse, she admitted that she was still seeing her ex-boyfriend while we were dating, which devastated me even more. She said it was because I was always busy with work and didn't pay her enough attention. I'm really confused right now. I have never ignored Maya or denied her needs. She was the reason I worked so hard to manage our expenses and take care of her. As I write this, the thought of her secretly being with her boyfriend still haunts me. She's even suggesting that we set a new wedding date to avoid embarrassment. It's clear that her only apology for hurting me shows that she never really loved or appreciated me as much as I did her. It was more of a one-sided relationship. I told her I can't marry her. I just can't. I've asked her to leave my house and change the locks. After meeting Maya yesterday, I also spoke to Andrea to thank her for helping me avoid a disaster. I learned that Maya was using my money to support her boyfriend through Andrea. She would ask for a lot of money and then give it to him. I didn't mention before that while we lived together, Maya went to the gym every night. She was really focused on staying in shape, and I didn't think there was anything wrong with that. But now I've discovered that she was seeing her college boyfriend every day, often lying about being with Andrea. Instead, she was just asking Andrea to cover for her. The reason Andrea was so surprised when Maya showed her the engagement ring was because Maya had told Andrea a few days earlier that she wanted to settle down with her college boyfriend because she was deeply in love with him. Now I understand why Andrea kept texting and calling me. She wanted to tell me what was going on, but I didn't give her the chance. Sometimes I feel like I'm to blame because I was so naive and easily fooled. I've made my decision, and there won't be another wedding. I'm planning to meet with her in 2 days to return her things. I'll post another update soon. Update 2. Hey everybody. Sorry for the late update. 3 weeks ago, I met Maya again, and something unexpected happened. I told her that we would never be together again, let alone get married. She looked me in the eye and said, Do you really think canceling the wedding will help you find a better woman? I laughed out loud. No sane woman would want to be with a guy who is overweight because you consider yourself lucky to have someone like me. This insult hit me hard. I'd never been treated like this before, especially by someone I once loved or who claimed to love me. That's when I realized what kind of person she was. It's hard to admit, but I understood that she had been using me all along. I know I'm overweight, but I didn't want a marriage where my wife felt like she was doing me a favor. I knew that kind of marriage usually ends badly. We didn't talk much that day. She threw my engagement ring at me and stormed off in a huff. I blocked her on all of our shared social media, and her number too. But before I blocked her parents, I visited them and told them what their daughter had done. They were really disappointed when they learned the truth about a week later. After Maya stormed out of the cafe, a strange number started calling me repeatedly. When I answered, I recognized Maya's voice. It sounded different, more calm and respectful. She immediately said she had something important to tell me, but I insisted she tell me over the phone. But before she could, she started to apologize. She wanted me to forgive her and forget everything that had happened between us so that we could start over. Can you believe it? Maya said she was pregnant, which seemed strange to me. Without giving me a chance to respond, she added, "I'm carrying your baby, Rick." I burst out laughing. I told her it wasn't April Fool's Day yet and that she was already playing tricks. Then I hung up as I expected. She kept calling, so I had to block her number. It turns out her boyfriend left her when he realized she couldn't support him anymore. She also told him she was pregnant, and he left her. When that didn't work, she thought she could trick me. Since then, she's been using different numbers to try to reach me, and I've been rejecting her calls. Just 2 days ago, she showed up at my house without an invitation. Andrea was with me. When she saw Andrea, she started a fight with her, calling her a disgrace who ruined her friend's life. She even accused both Andrea and me of having an affair and of betraying her. I had to call the police. Yesterday, I got a restraining order against her. I can only imagine how hard her life must be without a job and someone to support her with the baby. As for Andrea and me, there's nothing romantic between us, and I doubt we'll ever become a couple. She occasionally comes by to see how I'm doing. Right now, I just want to get my life back on track. I hope my broken heart heals eventually. I can't forgive her for what she did, but I guess she has to face the consequences. I'm still trying to heal and move on. Any advice would be greatly appreciated. Thank you. Story 2. I don't understand why people cheat. What kind of person hurts someone they promised to love? Someone who has always been there for them and made many sacrifices for their happiness. In the process, we take away their dignity, pride, self-esteem, and many other things that can't be restored. My own betrayal happened 25 years ago, and it completely destroyed me. Recently, I read posts from men whose betrayals also happened years ago. These posts inspired me to write. While advice, support, and criticism aren't really relevant anymore, if you had asked me before, I would have said I was lucky. I came from a simple family, but I had everything else. Because of Katie, we were born in the same month. We were the first children of young parents who lived on the same street, just a few blocks apart. So Katie was a part of my life from the very beginning. We became close without even realizing it. We spent so much time together that it felt natural for her to be at my house or for me to be at hers. By the end of elementary school, a popular activity for boys and girls was to meet somewhere before going home and exchange a few kisses. I never said it out loud, but I didn't kiss other girls, and she only kissed me. Starting high school was hard for me. I should mention that Katie was incredibly beautiful, like in the top percentile of gorgeousness. I had never seen anyone like her before. All the boys noticed her. The social rules of elementary school didn't apply anymore. Soon, all the boys in the school were trying to get her attention. They'd sit near her locker, waiting for a chance to catch a glimpse of her during class and at lunch. Boys and cars would stop us on the way to school. I felt devastated. I felt like I didn't stand a chance against the bigger, stronger, richer boys who had cars and money. I lost all interest in school. I became depressed, stopped studying, and even stopped walking to school. I even told my mom I was going to drop out. But Katie's mom helped me by talking to my mom and checking on me. I hadn't visited in a while, and Katie was worried. She invited me over the next night and the three of us sat down to talk. As I explained my feelings, Katie assured me that in her eyes I am, and always will be her friend. After that, I started feeling excited about life again. But other boys still liked to flirt with me. By the end of 12th grade, I gave her a promise ring, which she accepted. We started planning for our futures. She wanted to be a dental technician, while I decided to do a general year of arts and sciences at university. We continued to live with our parents to save money. This worked out well for both of us, thanks to an unexpected offer from her parents. One of our favorite activities was to drive out to the country, away from the city lights. We'd park, put an unzipped sleeping bag over the hood and windshield, throw pillows for our heads, cover ourselves with a blanket, and snuggle up while we watched the sky, talked, and made wishes to the falling stars before getting into the back seat. We had been sexually active since the summer before. This time we fell asleep and didn't wake up until morning. When we arrived, her parents were making breakfast. I thought there would be a fight, but her mom was calm and invited us to eat. I was waiting for a fight. They asked where we had been. I felt like I was 19, old enough to tell them the truth. It was time to be honest. They smiled, and their father assured us that their main concern was our safety. He said that I could sleep in their room instead of in the back seat. This was before cell phones, so parents didn't always know where their kids were or what they were up to. Katie's mom told me that it had been obvious for a while that we loved each other deeply and were inseparable. Her father was proud that his daughter had found such a good young man. Our relationship was always very intimate. We spent hours exploring each other's bodies and learning how to pleasure each other. I felt like I was on top of the world. To save time, I'll skip ahead. I wish I could share more of the efforts I made to show her my love and the countless wonderful experiences we had as a couple. That way, readers would understand the depth of my devastation when it all fell apart. After she finished her course, she quickly got a job. We got an apartment together. After my 3rd year, I decided to become a teacher, and she supported me. While I could have pursued other paths, teaching gave us more time to be together, and that extra time with her was truly priceless. After my senior year, I proposed, and we set a wedding date for the early summer after I graduated. We stayed in our apartment for another year, and the following year I got a job. We bought a house with the intention of living there forever. Our plan was to start a family when I got a permanent job at the age of 28. We started our family by welcoming our son, David. I was very proud of Katie and David. I acted like Katie was the first woman in the world to give birth. The experience was both wonderful and terrifying. I had prepared for the birth, but the intensity of it took me by surprise. I asked the two mothers for advice and tried to be a good caretaker. I was always thinking about how she was feeling, what she needed, and how I could help. The birth made Katie and me even closer. People often say that once children are born, they become a parent's top priority, surpassing their partners. Not in my case. Katie was a miracle and a wonder to me. She had always been my best friend, my lover, and my soulmate. Now she was also my soul. I couldn't imagine life without her. Sometimes, when I'm feeling empty, I can almost remember those feelings. My pride grew even more when Hannah arrived 3 years later. Right after David, Katie's employers were generous to their employees. Every other year, they gave the hygienists, technicians, receptionists, and others a 5-day-long weekend. The women planned everything, and the practice covered all the expenses. When the kids were a little older, David was 10 and Hannah was 7. Instead of the usual visits to the grandparents, I arranged a special trip to a distant city with a famous mall that had a huge water park, indoor amusements, a submarine ride, and more. It was a pretty exciting trip for the 3 of us. When the time came, I drove Katie to the airport where she would meet the others, and we left for the 2nd day. As the kids and I made our way to the wave pool, something caught my eye and left me stunned outside the park. But on the way there, Katie and someone else were walking hand in hand in that same spot. This place was popular with many people from all over. As I said before, anyone who had seen her before would recognize her by her appearance. "There's Mommy," Hannah explained. Tears were already flowing when Davy asked, "Dad, I think he wanted me to calm him down." The unfaithful couple found beach chairs and, before sitting down, they kissed and hugged each other. Dad asked Davy again, but I was just panting and couldn't make any sounds. After the two lovers sat down, Hannah started running toward Katie, calling out to Mommy. When Katie recognized Hannah, she panicked and looked around the crowd until she finally saw us. I walked toward her, and she buried her face in the bath towel she had brought with her. I stopped in front of the AP and asked Hannah to come to me. So, idiot, I want you to meet the children whose family you just destroyed. I hope their faces haunt you for the rest of your miserable life. He responded with a smug smile, then walked over and sat down a few chairs away without saying a word. I told the kids to stay with their mom and quickly went to our room. I changed quickly, leaving most of my things with the kids. At the front desk, I told the staff that Katie would want to know where I was, and that it would be okay to tell her I had left. I let her into the room to get the kids' things. I'm not proud of this decision, but I thought having the kids around might interrupt her plans. Then I began a very long and lonely 8-hour drive home, making several stops along the highway as my sobbing sometimes became too overwhelming to continue. When I got home, I unplugged Jack's phone from the wall. I sat down and wrote a long letter to each of the children and placed them on their pillows. I packed a hockey bag with random clothes and things. I thought I'd need them. I abandoned my original romantic plans for the bathtub. Instead, I filled it with water and poured in a lot of bleach. Then, I gathered all the wedding pictures and photos of us from before we had children, along with all the lingerie and intimate gifts I had given her, even the marriage license. Before I left, I set up the house as if I were hosting the reception I had planned for her. The week before, I bought 200 white candles of different sizes. I also asked 2 of Katie's coworkers to help me collect oils and lotions that she might like. I arranged the candles to form a path from the entrance to the bathroom. I put candles on every surface in the bathroom and put the bath oils and lotions next to them. I had bought new, large, hotel-quality white bath towels and put them on the toilet seat. On them were the lingerie and intimate items I had purchased for the occasion. I had cut the lingerie and intimate items into pieces, but the children were staying with their grandparents. I asked our neighbors to light the candles after I called them from the airport. Our bedroom was also filled with candles, and I folded back the sheets on her side of the bed and sprinkled rose petals over them. It was going to be a memorable homecoming. I left my wedding ring on the kitchen table, took a few pictures of the kids, and left for good. I couldn't face anyone, so I checked into a cheap motel and waited for Tuesday, taking advantage of the long weekend. I told my principal that I couldn't come in because of my situation. On Tuesday morning, I met with a divorce attorney and explained what I wanted. I would take half the money from our checking or savings account, whichever had more, but would give up any claim to other assets. I asked if I could visit during the holidays. I made it clear that all communication would be through the attorney, since I wouldn't be contacting Katie directly, and my whereabouts were to remain confidential. I left for a region experiencing a real estate boom, with the goal of finding any simple job that could cover my expenses. I never thought about going back to teaching. My lawyer did a great job of keeping our conversations focused on legal matters and keeping a secret about where I was. He also handled the arrangements for the children. I could talk for hours about how I dealt with the situation with the kids and my in-laws, but I want to get back to what I was saying before. Was the affair worth it? It destroyed me. It was like a light bulb with a burnt filament. My spirit, my energy for life, my essence all gone. I lost my self-esteem and confidence, and I never recovered. Even after so much time has passed, I still have a hard time trusting women. I can't bring myself to open up and be vulnerable. My friends try to set me up with someone, but I always say no. My sexual desire was also destroyed by the affair. I was mostly absent from my children's lives. 2 weeks in the summer was hardly enough. Was it worth it? It was just a mistake. I find it hard to give definite answers. But please, for the sake of all that's good, ladies, think about the consequences before you embark on a fleeting affair. Does your husband or boyfriend deserve this? Dealing with the kids turned out to be manageable. I realized that I had to make some major compromises. I initially secured custody for Christmas, Easter, and 3 weeks in the summer. However, the children preferred to spend Christmas and Easter with their grandparents, and I saw the advantages. So, through my lawyer, I swapped those holidays for an extra week in the summer. There were no big problems over the kids during the summer. My siblings or parents would bring them over, and I'd enroll them in swimming lessons. With only 2 weeks of vacation, I was grateful for my family's support, and we had the kids over at my parents' house on the weekends. As they got older and could drive, I let them choose their own schedules. They usually visited, except when sports got in the way. I helped David find good, paying summer jobs, so he was happy to spend the whole summer with me. After 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, they visited independently about every other Christmas. I didn't keep track of this. Over time, Hannah and I developed a strong bond because she wanted to understand my pain and how it affected me. It's easy to understand someone who's hurting, but she really understood and forgave me for not being around. She focused on me, not the failed marriage. The family is changing. The topic of her mother only came up as the children got older. I'll write one more post, but then I'm going to take a break from the forum. At first, I had hoped that sharing my story would make things better. And it did. Felt good to get my story out there. But recently, I've come across other stories that have really touched me. I don't need any help feeling sad. One story was about a man whose wife cheated on him and his 3 daughters kept the affair a secret from him. Many people have asked about my age. I'm 65 now and I was 38 at the time.